College football has gotten really crazy over the last few years, ever since 2020 happened. With all the extra year of eligibility, the wild wild west and the transfer portal, and everything going on in the sport, things have gotten quite crazy, and there are some players who have played at 4 or 5 college football programs now. I still don't know how that really is all possible, or why schools go for players who've been around that much, but in today's video, I want to highlight 8 different players who'll be playing on at least their 4th school this upcoming fall. Yeah, I can't really believe that either, and that is a lot of moving around, and I hope these guys end up figuring it out at some point, because that probably won't work forever. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about 8 players who will be on at least their 4th school in 2025. Okay, so before we get started, take a quick moment to go down to the comment section below and give me a future topic I can cover next, and the best and most unique video topic will be made into a video next week. Okay, so the first guy I want to talk about is TJ Finley. Man, he's been playing college football for quite some time, as all the way back in 2019, he had passed for 72 touchdowns as a senior. He ended up throwing for 2,700 yards and became a 3-star recruit who was both a football and basketball star. He decided to enroll at LSU for the 2020 season, and he actually got a couple of opportunities to start. Both him and Max Johnson got a chance to fill in after Miles Brennan was hurt. In total, Finley threw for 941 yards and 5 touchdowns. Knowing he wasn't going to win the job, he transferred to Auburn for 2021, where he actually had a couple of decent games, including playing really well in the Iron Bowl. He ended up throwing for 827 yards with 6 touchdowns and 1 pick, but then in 2022, things would get really dicey for him. He'd end up throwing for 431 yards with 1 touchdown and 4 picks, and now he'd be off to his 3rd school. He decided to transfer over to Texas State, where in his lone season there, he actually helped lead them to a really good season, and he threw for 3,439 yards with 24 touchdowns and 8 picks. For some reason, he decided not to stick at Texas State and would try to transfer to Western Kentucky and take advantage of the Austin Reed-Bailey Zappi train. This would end up not working out for him, as in 2024, he ended up throwing for 490 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 picks. Okay, so yeah, he's already played for 4 schools, but he's decided to transfer to Tulane for the 2025 season, and he'll replace Darian Mensah. I have zero idea why Tulane wants anything to do with him, but I guess maybe finally TJ Finley will figure it out on school number 5. Situations like this are somewhat annoying, but I guess I could say I hope the best for him. Another guy who will now be playing on his 4th school is wide receiver EJ Horton. Coming out of Palmetto Academy in Louisville, Kentucky, Horton has been playing college football for quite some time. He ended up catching 47 passes for 774 yards and 11 touchdowns as a senior, and because of that, he was listed as a 3-star recruit. As a freshman in 2020, he'd end up enrolling at Marshall, where in his 2 years at the Thundering Herd, he'd end up catching 4 passes for 59 yards his freshman year, and then 12 catches for 186 yards and a touchdown his sophomore year. In 2023, he'd end up going on to his 2nd school, which would be the West Virginia Mountaineers, and in one lone season with them, he caught 10 passes for 201 yards and a score. Looking for greener pastures in 2024, he would decide to transfer over to Florida Atlantic, but for some unknown reason, Horton did not even end up playing and would not take the field once for the Owls. Since then, for some unknown reason, Purdue football wants a guy like this, and Horton will now be playing on his 4th school and will be playing in the Big Ten this fall with the Purdue Boilermakers. Up next, we have a really big name, as a couple of years ago, Sam Heward was listed as a 5-star recruit. He was supposed to be the next big thing while he was at Washington, as he came from Washington Husky blood. As a junior, he threw for over 4,200 yards and 56 touchdowns, and that combined with 153 overall touchdown passes made him a 5-star recruit. He had originally decided to enroll at Washington for the 2021 season, where he'd end up throwing for 241 yards with 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions in his first season of playing. In 2022, things did not end up getting much better for him, as he would complete 2 passes for 24 yards. In 2023, he decided to transfer over to Cal Poly, as he knew he needed to start and get some experience under his belt. In his lone season there, he threw for 2,200 yards with 18 touchdowns and 10 picks, and he used that to springboard back onto the mainstream of college football. He decided to enroll at Utah, but Heward never ended up seeing the field. I know Utah had a lot of quarterback issues last year, so I'm not quite sure why Heward didn't end up seeing the field, but he decided to enter the portal for the 3rd time and is all of a sudden going to be a backup quarterback for the USC Trojans this fall. For a former 5-star recruit, he's had quite the journey, and I hope he figures it out, but I don't really think he'll ever play at USC. Alright, speaking of quarterbacks, let's now talk about Zack Kade. Coming out of Lanier High School in Georgia, Zack Kade played quite a long time ago. In fact, he played in 2018. After becoming a 3-star recruit, he would end up deciding to enroll at Texas A&M, where he would actually get an opportunity to play for the Aggies. In 2019, he threw for 2 touchdowns, but would not play in 2020 due to Kellen Mond, and then would take over as a starter in 2021. Kade ended up throwing for nearly 2,200 yards with 17 touchdowns, but was seen as more of a game manager. He'll forever be remembered for his gutsy performance against Alabama, and had some crazy passes to set up that game-winning field goal. Still though, he wouldn't end up making it work, as he would then transfer over to Auburn, but he would never end up seeing the field for the Tigers. From there, he transferred to Incarnate Word, where over the last 2 years, he's actually put up crazy numbers. He threw for 2,600 yards and 19 touchdowns in 2023, and then this past season became one of the best players in the FCS, throwing for nearly 3,800 yards and 35 touchdowns. Somehow having one more year of eligibility, Kade decided to transfer to Kentucky for this fall, and with Brock Vandagriff retiring, he will battle it out with Cutter Boley for the starting job, and I bet Kade will get a nod, and we'll see if he can make it work on his 3rd SEC school and his 4th overall. It feels like Chandler Morris has been playing college football forever, and we've been hearing about the Morrises for quite some time. His dad is the, quote, legendary head coach from Arkansas, Chad Morris, and he ended up having a really good career at Highland Park High School. He ended up throwing for 4,000 yards and 46 touchdowns as a junior, and would follow it up with nearly 3,800 yards and 42 scores as a senior. He was a borderline 4-star recruit according to most sites, and would decide to enroll at Oklahoma, hoping to be the next great quarterback there. He'd complete a total of 3 passes before he'd enter the transfer portal, and Lincoln Riley almost blocked the transfer, but it would end up going through. He would then spend the next 3 years at TCU, as he ended up throwing for 695 yards his first year there, got hurt his second year and Max Duggan took over, and in his final season, threw for 1,532 yards and 12 touchdowns. That ended up being his 2nd school, and his 3rd school was this past season with North Texas. He actually had one of the best seasons in college football, as he was near the top statistically, throwing for 3,774 yards with 31 touchdowns and 12 picks. Already at 3 schools and 1 more year of eligibility, Chandler Morris decided to transfer over to Virginia, where he should take over as the starter right away, and battle it out with Daniel Kalen. He'll get an opportunity to play at a Power 4 school, and maybe he'll have a terrific season and go off to the league, but for now, I just think he'll be a solid starter in his final year. For our next guy, it is somewhat of a tragic story, as at one point coming out of North Shore High School, Denver Harris was a borderline 5-star recruit. He was seen as one of the next great corners, and it was for good reason. North Shore had been known for producing big-time talent, but they also had a reputation of not exactly having those guys pan out. Denver would originally arrive at Texas A&M, but in his freshman year with the Aggies, he only had 14 total tackles with 3 pass deflections. Denver was not able to make it work, so he would decide to enter the transfer portal and actually became one of the top players in the portal overall. Sadly though, at LSU, things did not end up working out, as he finished with a total of 7 tackles and 2 pass deflections. Searching for more of a role and more playing time, Denver would enter the portal for a second time and would settle on UTSA for the 2024 season. He ended up having his best season yet, as he finished with 16 tackles and 3 pass deflections, but it still left a lot to be desired, and he entered the portal for a 3rd time. We actually don't know where Denver will be going, as he has not announced his destination, but it will be 4 schools in 4 years for the former 5-star, and it's safe to say things have not really worked out for Denver, but I hope he puts it together in his final college football season in 2025, wherever that may be. One guy who's been playing college football for quite some time is Isaiah Navarre. He ended up going to Lamar High School in Fort Worth, and as a senior, he had 39 catches for 858 yards and 8 touchdowns. He didn't have a ton of offers coming out of high school, so he would have to settle on Wyoming. Luckily, he ended up having a brilliant first 2 years there, as he caught 44 passes for 878 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2021, and would originally decide to transfer to Tennessee, but would flip to Texas. Sadly, Navarre would catch 1 pass in 2023 due to him getting injured, and he was supposed to be a big-time weapon for them. He'd then go on to his 3rd school in 2024, as this past season he led the Huskers with 34 catches for 455 yards and 5 touchdowns, and some thought he'd go off to the NFL or return for 1 more year, but instead he would decide to enter the transfer portal again, and we'll have to wait and see which school he ends up deciding to play for. I have no idea where it'll be, but he is a high-impact weapon. Alright, so our final player we need to talk about today is Sam Jackson V. Coming out of Naperville, Illinois, he followed in the footsteps of guys like Jaden Reed and Peyton Thorne. Sam Jackson put up ridiculous numbers while he was in high school, as he was just an all-around athlete. He ended up catching 50 passes for 847 yards and 14 touchdowns as a receiver, and also passed for 1,700 yards and 16 scores as a quarterback. In 2020, he would not be able to play due to everything going on in the world, but the 4-star recruit would decide to commit to Purdue, then he flipped to Minnesota, then he ended up going to TCU. Sam Jackson would end up playing 1 season in Fort Worth before he would then transfer over to Cal. In his 1 season at Cal, he ended up throwing for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and also had a rushing score, but ended up getting hurt and eventually lost the job to Fernando Mendoza. He then would seek the portal one more time and would transfer to the Auburn Tigers for the 2024 season. He ended up having 2 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown, and also ran the ball a little bit. I guess he was seen as more of a gadget player than a quarterback, and he has since entered the portal for a 3rd time, and he will get an opportunity to play for Oklahoma State this upcoming fall as a wide receiver. Sam Jackson's had quite the story, and some of it has been unfortunate due to the injury, but I hope he puts it all together in 2025 as a receiver. So yeah, today we talked about 8 guys who will now be on at least their 4th school for the 2025 season, and that's one of the crazy parts of the transfer portal, as we've seen a lot more examples like this. And say what you want about it, the players are doing it legally, and nobody is really trying to put a stop to it, so I don't necessarily blame them fully, even though I wouldn't personally do it. But what do you guys think? What do you think of these players? Who's the guy I missed? And what topic should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.